Welcome to our final lesson of week 3. We've spent this week understanding users through empathy maps, personas, and journey maps. Now it's time to shift from understanding problems to generating solutions. This is ideation. Ideation is about creating options, lots of options, more options than you think possible. Before converging on a solution, you diverge widely, exploring the full range of what might be possible. Today we'll learn techniques for generating creative solutions with special attention to the how might we question format that frames challenges constructively. By the end of this lesson, you'll accomplish 3 objectives. First, reframe problems as how might we opportunity statements. This simple technique transforms challenges into invitations for creative thinking. Second, apply divergent thinking techniques to generate multiple solutions. We'll cover specific methods for pushing past your first ideas to discover non-obvious possibilities. And third, use convergent thinking to prioritize promising ideas. Generating ideas is only half the work. You also need to select which ideas to pursue. Through your empathy research, you've identified problems and pain points. Users struggle at certain stages. Emotions dip at particular touch points. Barriers prevent healthy behaviors. Now comes a crucial shift. We reframe these problems as opportunities for innovation. Instead of asking what's wrong, we ask what's possible. This is not naive optimism. The problems are real. But the mindset of possibility opens up creative thinking in a way that problem-focused thinking doesn't. Problems become the raw material for solutions. Each frustration you identified is an invitation to design something better. The how might we format is a simple but powerful tool. Take an insight from your research and reframe it as a question that starts with how might we. Let's break down why this wording works. How assumes there is a solution. It's not can we or should we, it's how. We're going to solve this, the question is how. Might gives permission to explore. It's not how will we, which sounds like we need the answer now. Might opens space for speculation and creativity. We makes it collaborative. This isn't one person's job. We're solving this together, which invites diverse perspectives and builds ownership. The format transforms limitations into design challenges. Crafting good how might we questions is an art. Too broad is a problem. How might we improve health is so vague it doesn't guide thinking. Anything could be an answer. Too narrow is also a problem. How might we add more chairs to the waiting room already contains the solution. There's nothing to ideate. Just right is somewhere in between. How might we reduce wait time anxiety for patients is focused enough to guide thinking but open enough to allow many solutions. More chairs is one answer, but so is real-time wait time displays, or text notifications when it's almost your turn, or a play area for children, or a different appointment system entirely. Aim for scope that invites many possible solutions. Divergent thinking is about opening up possibilities. Several principles make it work. Defer judgment. During ideation, there's no evaluating whether ideas are good or bad. Evaluation comes later. Judgment during generation kills creativity, quantity over quality. This seems counterintuitive, but research supports it. The more ideas you generate, the more likely you are to find good ones. Aim for volume. Build on others' ideas. When someone shares an idea, respond with yes and add to it, extend it, combine it with other ideas. This creates momentum and connection. Encourage wild ideas. They may not be practical themselves, but they often spark practical innovations. The wild idea makes you think in a new direction, which leads somewhere useful. Several techniques can help generate ideas. Classic brainstorming is rapid generation in groups. Someone captures ideas as they're called out. Energy and speed matter. Brainwriting works better for some groups. Everyone writes ideas silently for a few minutes before sharing. This prevents dominant voices from shaping the direction too early. The worst possible idea technique sounds silly, but works. Generate deliberately terrible solutions. The most expensive, the most confusing, the most offensive. Then reverse them. What's the opposite of the worst idea? It's often surprisingly creative. Analogous inspiration looks at how other domains solve similar problems. How does a hotel manage wait time anxiety? How does an airline? What can we learn from their solutions? How do you know when you've generated enough ideas? Several signals indicate readiness to move on. You've moved past obvious ideas to non-obvious territory. The first ideas are usually the obvious ones. Push until you're generating things that surprise you. Ideas start repeating. When the same concepts keep coming up in different words, you've likely exhausted the current direction. You've explored multiple how might we questions. Different framings generate different ideas. Make sure you've looked at the problem from several angles. And time boxing is practical. 45 to 60 minutes of focused ideation is usually productive. After that, energy fades. Better to stop and reconvene than to force tired thinking. After divergence comes convergence. Now you evaluate which ideas are most promising. Use explicit criteria. Impact. If this worked, how much difference would it make? Feasibility. Can we actually do this with our resources and constraints? User desirability. Would our personas actually want this? Dot voting is a simple method. Give everyone a few votes, maybe 3 or 5. Everyone places their votes on their favorite ideas. The ideas with the most votes rise to the top. But also, consider which ideas you could prototype quickly to learn more. Some ideas are hard to evaluate in the abstract but easy to test. Those might be worth pursuing even if they didn't get the most votes. At the end of ideation, you select promising ideas to take forward. Note that you don't need to choose just one. In human-centered design, it's common to take multiple concepts into prototyping. You might test 3 different approaches to see which resonates most with users. The goal at this stage is learning, not commitment. You're not deciding what your final intervention will be. You're deciding what concepts are worth exploring further. Prototyping and testing will provide more information. Ideas that seemed promising might fail with real users. Ideas that seemed risky might succeed. Stay open to learning. Let's summarize our key takeaways and wrap up week 3. How might we questions reframe problems as opportunities, using language that assumes solutions exist and invites creative exploration? Craft questions with appropriate scope, not too broad, not too narrow, that invite many possible solutions. Divergent thinking defers judgment and prioritizes quantity. More ideas increase your chances of finding good ones. Multiple techniques, brainstorming, brainwriting, worst ideas, analogies, help push past obvious ideas to non-obvious territory, and convergent thinking prioritizes ideas based on impact, feasibility, and user desirability. Congratulations on completing week 3. You now have the tools for human-centered design, empathy mapping, personas, journey mapping, and ideation. Next week, we'll move into logic models and strategic alignment, connecting your creative ideas to rigorous program planning. Thank you.